Thanks for joining us for another episode of DPC Radio. This episode was recorded live in Amsterdam at the Dutch PHP Conference 2012. For more information about the Dutch PHP Conference, visit our website, phpconference.nl.
First of all, a little bit about myself. My name is Mike van Riel. I work for a company called UNet as a lead developer. I'm mostly responsible for the technical stuff, but I do a little bit of design, user experience, and in my spare time I lead of PHP Documenter. How many of you know PHP Documenter and have seen the recent new theme? Not too many. Take a look at it. It's an example of how I, as a backend developer, at least demonstrated the slightest bit of the design skills. Well, first of all, I'd like to ask you to rate my talk afterwards on Joined In. The URL will be shown at the end of the slides. Thank you. First of all, why? Why me? Well, I already told a little bit about that. I'm a developer. I'm not a designer. This is something which I really want to make clear. This talk is not going to make you a front-ender. But, however, I like nice things. I like things to be pretty. But most of all, I like things to be usable. If I see an application and I don't know how to use it just by looking at it, I need a manual, 20 pages thick. Why would I want to invest that time when I don't know what the gain will be? And most of all, I'm a user. And a user means I want to use your software. When I see it, I want to take it, I want to love it, I want to use it. If you provide me with a bad experience, then I get frustrated. And I abhor applications which frustrate me. I skip over them, I move away, and go look for your competition. Is that familiar for some of you? Cool. So, this actually introduces you into why I'm doing this talk. I want to prevent this from happening. If I see this, I click away. Actually, I only know about the existence of this because it is the benchmark of bad design. But there's another example. And this one you might know. Who of you has seen this slide? This is a slide made by the CERN, one of the most important organizations for research. Do you know what the backlash on Twitter was? Why were they using Comic Sans? There's content on this slide, people. They are actually telling something. But no, people were bitching about why are they using Comic Sans? And rightly so. That was worldwide. Do you want the world to see such a thing? I don't. And as a final example, I'm going to show you something to which most of you might relate. Jenkins. Who likes the interface of Jenkins? 1, 2. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel ashamed. But there is room for improvement. And this is why. This is why I'm going to talk about what you can do. My apologies for the fonts. They're missing from that laptop. So I like to do nice shiny things, including fonts. So, sorry. First of all, your audience. Try to be one with them. Walk to someone in your audience and ask them, who are you? If possible. What age they are. Very important. You don't want to make a flashy, bright pink teenager site for 60s. No, they won't use it. What do they like? Again, you don't make a pink site for boys. Why should they visit your site? This is the main question. This is actually something which you should ask yourself. Why would I go to my own site? Why would I visit it? can I actually use it? But you've got roles. Your audience might be, well, as said, a consumer. A consumer has a different type of information that it requires. While a provider, a supplier, who gives you something, want to see a whole other set of skills. The technical level of your audience. This is often forgotten in open source applications. Take, for example, Jira. If you look at the whole interface of Jira, it is very technical. And you've got actions, you've got navigation, you've got a little bit of navigation extra. But if you're working at a help desk, that will probably confuse you. So, the question is, multiple audiences, make multiple apps. Don't make the one app to rule them all. Because in the end, nobody will use it. And this is the main question. Everybody has needs, and they might conflict. A nice example is the iPad, iPhone, Android thing. If I have an iPad application, I don't want to see every little tiny bit of information, because I have to look up close to my iPad to read what actually is going on. You want to change your designs to match the audience. So, if you're getting bored, have a kitten. Cute kitty. Right, step 2. There are some patterns which you can apply, and this is perhaps the most interesting part. Direction. Has any of you ever observed how you scan a website? If you take a look at a website, there are some common things you can see. A top banner, a sidebar on the left side, sidebar on the right side, and everything has a place. People rarely deviate. There's a reason. That is because we read everything from left to right, from top to bottom. When designing, think about this. You do not want your most important information to be in the lower right corner. People won't read it. They won't see it. So your login should not be there. Your disclaimer should probably not be there. For example, I've got this Facebook sign-in form. Who sees what's wrong here? Yeah? The labels on the right side. You might think that it's important for the user to enter their information. No. For the user themselves, it's important to know what am I entering, not that I am entering. So, this is the real one. Direction matters. A big deal. That's the first thing you should think about. The very first thing. And space. Remember that first bridal shop site? It might seem a little crowded. And if you look at this picture of this city, this is a picture of New York City. I don't get a relaxed feeling from it. If I go here and look at the picture, I'm like, all those details, all those colors, multiple windows, would there be anyone behind them? You shouldn't have to care. No. Design should be like an open space. It should be about, I want to be here. I want to feel your website. So think about space and think about layout. The Facebook sign-up form, it is slightly crowded, but it nicely illustrates how you have a definite grid. How everything is aligned and how it all matches. For example, even the sign-up button is in a column. It's not in the center, which you might expect. Some people do that. They have a sign-up button in the center. No, it's on a place where the user expects it. Because the mind expects you to follow certain patterns. It is the mind that tricks you. And you want to trick the mind during your design. As a nice example, I've taken the PHP conference website. This image was taken 2 weeks ago. And this website is actually an example of a rather good design in terms of layout and space. For example, I have drawn some boxes around them. And this is the least amount of information that people immediately see. You've got the menu in the top. You've got a header that is telling you why are you there. And then you have content with a nice sidebar for some additional information. But there's more. There are more squares in here. Anyone care to name one of them? Anyone care to name one of the boxes they see? No? Yeah, speaker's box. Dates, good one. Register is indeed a box. I'll show them. This page is composed of many, many little boxes. And this is actually very important to know, because when I've put these boxes into place, I noticed they made an error. It's not big, it's not really annoying. Well, there's something in here that could have been done better. This. Do you see the red squares? There's one falling off the side, sorry about that. The speaker's bot, that's the wrong button. Okay, sorry, I thought that was the laser pointer. The red box over here and the red box over there. What's not obvious now that the menu bar is not in full is that on this side, the space of the menu bar is bigger than on this side. That means that there's an uneven distribution of the squares. Same goes here. You've got this margin, and then you have the pictures, and then until the sidebar you've got a bigger margin. This gives a slightly offish feeling. You don't notice it at first, but it gives you a slightly offish feeling. Same goes here. You've got this red part. What could have been done better, perhaps, is to increase the space between the different pictures, or to center this entire block in this content block. That gives an even distribution of space and gives that nice, airy, open feeling. I'm not going to bitch about this site. It's actually well designed. It could just have been done better. With any design. I created the PHP Documenter website. I am still tweaking several parts in the design and will ever do so. Another important part. One that doesn't shine in these slides is typography. That's because I'm missing fonts. Here we have a nice blurb of text. I'm sorry, this is wrong. This is just plain wrong. You don't make your text like that. No. And this is where the part goes a little bit wrong due to the missing font, but you add more spacing. You make sure that your letters are evenly distributed. And if possible, you make the width of the text equal. Don't just use the justify, because then these things happen. I use justify, and that increased my spacing here with a big amount. And with the previous font, that worked okay. Because the font is changed here, it tried to increase the spacing, and you get these things. Point size, very important, and use a readable font. I have seen sites fail because they didn't use typography right. Blog posts are a nice example. Chris Shiflett, if I remember correctly, has a special tool to transform any blog post output into something that is slightly neater by replacing apostrophes, by spacing, and more. this is important, if you have a blog post with such a tiny font and such an amount of text without any images and with paragraphs nobody thought about, I don't know, I'm going to answer too long, did not read. If you, on the other hand, think about these things and make sure that the sizes match, that the size of the font itself is nice, that the font is readable, people might actually read your blog post. So if you want to get a message across, think about these things. Interesting topic, colors. Is someone in this audience colorblind? You. That's actually a relatively low amount. Research shows that about 10% of the male population is in one way or the other colorblind. This is something you should keep in mind. I actually did a project once where the designer made this great design. And he thought, we're going to have orange buttons. We're in the Netherlands. We're going to have bright orange buttons. And what are we going to do? We're going to use dark orange text on it. And I was like, dude, if you're colorblind, I can't read that. I actually read Slidography, Slidology, great book about writing slides, and they gave me a brilliant tip. If you want to test your site for color blindness, make it grayscale and print it out. If you can see all the bits, it's good. If there are things missing, it's bad. The downside with colors is there are a lot, and people like colors. The problem is a lot of people don't know how to apply colors. So I'm going to give you a little hint. When choosing colors, it's good to choose a palette, a fixed set of colors to use in your design, where you can use one color range. So from deep purple to light purple, from bright orange to a slightly yellowy orange, but just use a range. Then, choose your highlight colors. I don't know if anyone noticed during this presentation, but I have explicitly highlighted several words in this beautiful blue color. These attract your attention. I'm trying to give you a message. I'm doing that by adding color. Don't go overboard. Don't make it a popsicle or a lolly stick. Unless you've got a teenage audience, which might actually like that. And the last bit is you're allowed to use shades of gray. When you're using this, you get a nicely colored website. Unless you really don't have the eye for color. Of course, this is a rule of thumb. You are perfectly allowed to deviate from that at your own risk. Now on to some of the solutions. I've now given you a little bit of the theory, what you could do, what is involved. If you apply what I've just told, it will get better. With these solutions, it will get even better. For example, CSS frameworks, or actually JavaScript and CSS frameworks. Nice indication. Who of you has ever used Twitter Bootstrap? Cool. Who of you has ever used, for example, UI? Cool. 960GS, another example, and there are many, many more. Remember this website? A CSS grid, a CSS framework helps you divide. We just did that little exercise on how to recognize the squares. I've added an overlay to demonstrate more of them. This is where I say there are some things which could have been done better in squares, but what you can see is that everything is contained. You can see the square here. You can see a clear division here. Actually, it's this one. and this one is a little offish. There are bookmarklets, which can add these overlays to your existing websites. I suggest using them and try to find out what your square division is. There's one simple reason why you should use CSS frameworks aside from the whole grid thing. They incorporate the best practices of several designers that there are. UI, Twitter Bootstrap, 960GS, Sencha. What they all share in common is they put down the typography for you. They are changing the letter spacing. If you look at the Twitter Bootstrap framework, for example, you can see that the font definition actually changes the line height with a little bit, just to increase readability. These are best practices. Don't ignore them. Don't think, I can do it better. You're having years of experience just waiting for you to use it. And colors. I just talked about them. Look around you. For example, if you look at that wall, discover the number of colors that are in there. You've got a, cream-like color in the walls, a gray in the door, and there's a highlight color above the door that's green with a white marker. You can use that stuff in your website. Look at real-world examples where people actually use those things. Play around. Pick your logo. I actually designed a website once completely based around just a single logo with only primary colors. And I can tell you, primary colors don't mix and match well in a website. But by changing the hue, by changing the lighting, adding a slight gradient, you can actually confuse the mind and make it look good. And if you're really stuck with colors, there are sites like nocolorlovers.com. They provide thousands of prefab palettes for you to choose from with those main color and highlights that I just mentioned. Just skim through them, see if one fits, and try them out. It might look nice when you're actually looking at a palette, but once you're actually using it, it might not turn out well. For the slide deck, I actually used color palettes to see if it would work. I have used 5 different palettes until I hit this one. This is a hipster word, responsive design. I think it's actually coined 2 years ago. Don't remember by who. What it actually means is that you should design the right way for all devices, for everyone. That if someone resizes his browser, the experience of your website should match. This is the PHP Documenter website that was designed responsively. And you can see here the iPhone view, the iPad view, and the desktop view. There are, again, applications that can help you by auto-resizing your browser. And there are some things to note. You can see in the iPhone view that the buttons are underneath each other, but still in a dominant position. When doing responsive design, note dominance. You want your user to see things. When you have a sidebar on the left, you can get issues with dominance because your sidebar will be the first to show when resizing down. You might want that, but you might want to show your content first. But also look at little tricks like the menu. This is a common Twitter Bootstrap thing, so it's really nice. So you don't actually have to do any work for it. What happens is you get a menu button, and if you press it, it slides down and shows the different options, which are here, links. I hope you can see it in the back, by the way. It's a hipster word and will probably be replaced with a new concept in 5 years. But until that time, it works well. This is a nice alternative to building an app. If you have a website that you want to promote on a mobile device, consider using responsive design instead of an app. It might deliver more profit by having less development time. First of all, when doing a design, just look at examples. monstertemplates.com, beautiful website, thousands of templates, rather nice templates. Look at them, see what they have in common. But most of all, practice. Practice and practice even more. I'm doing this stuff for a few years now, and I'm still the developer doing a design. Well, it works. And last but not least, look at your website and ask yourself the question, would I use this? Do I want to fill out this 200 field form? You probably don't. With that I conclude. I don't want to ask, are there any questions? None at all? Well, nice. Then I'd like to thank you for visiting me. Here are some interesting resources which I want to point your attention towards. These will help you with accomplishing a new design with color palettes, a recommendation chart, deficit aids, and a beautiful list of design principles. These slides will be posted on slide deck and will be made available via Joint-in. So please visit Joint-in, rate my talk, and collect these. We have a wonderful list of items. Thank you.
DPC Radio is a production of iBuildings. The materials presented are copyright of the speakers. This episode is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 2.0 license. iBuildings is a full-service web development company specializing in PHP development. For more information on how we can help you with your next web project, visit our site at ibuildings.com. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again for DPC Radio.